Folks, welcome back inside the studios of the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to powertalk.live, download our free application, and download all of our live local shows, including the Jim Parisi Show and Solomon on Blast. And we appreciate you making us part of your day today. And without further ado, I want to bring in a legendary musician, composer, and arranger, Lalo Schifrin. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, very nice to be here.
Lalo, I wanted to ask you about when you came to the States. Who gave you your first big break?
When I came to the States?
Yes.
Well, I already had a break because, you know, I'm from Argentina, and when Dizzy Gillespie and his band were touring all over the world, sponsored by the State Department, it was in 1956, and he came to Argentina. I had a big band myself, an Argentinian band, but with the best jazz musicians over there. And when he heard that band, he said to me, "Would you like to come to the United States?" Because he asked me, "Who wrote the charts?" I said, "I did." So he said, so I didn't have to, I came with him, and I didn't have to struggle, luckily. I didn't believe it, but this is what happened.
Sure. No, but I think that the better question is, in fact, once you finished playing with Dizzy, how did you get connected to the studio scenes in Los Angeles?
Well, that's a very good question, but I have the answer. I've been very lucky in my career because I was going in one of the tours with Dizzy, the Jazz at the Philharmonic. Remember Norman Granz?
Of course. And
in that, one of the tours included, you know, there were many musicians going, like Lester Young or many of the great of that time, that they were not with Dizzy. There were different groups that they were playing in Jazz at the Philharmonic. And one of them was Jimmy Smith, the organ player. And his agent, whose name is Clarence Avant, he still is a friend of mine now. I didn't know him, of course. And as I was going to the plane with everybody, I think Stan Getz was also in the same tour at that time. And this gentleman asked me, "Did you write the Gillespie suite?" I said, "Yes." "Okay, when you come back from Europe, please call me back. Call me." And he gave me his card. So I called him. And we had lunch after, like 1 month after. And we were having lunch, and he asked me, "What would you like to do?" "Well, I would like to write now. I would like to write music for movies and television." "Oh, that's easy." He knew one member of the board of MGM Studios, and he got me the first movies. And after that, the word that went around here in Hollywood, all the producers and many producers and directors heard they liked my music and they hired me. That's it.
Do you remember one of the first films you did where you got a lot of positive acclaim?
A lot of what?
You got a lot of positive feedback early on. One of the earliest sort of Lalo Schifrin soundtracks or movies that you did that put that.
The first one was not that. It's not that known, but it helped me within MGM. It was called Rhino. It was with Robert Culp and Harry Gardino. I don't know if you know these. They're famous actors now.
Wow. Wait, okay, so and it was called, what was it called again?
Rhino. It was about the the bad people who kill rhinoceros to steal their ivory.
Wow.
From their, the tusks.
Absolutely. We see it with the Trump kids today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, as I say, it was not very known at that time, but that got me to other things. For instance, the second film I did, it was also luck. It was made in France. The director was French, and the producer also was French, but it was with Jane Fonda and Alain Delon. You know Jane Fonda?
Absolutely.
And it was a French film, and because before I went back to Argentina, by coincidence, that Dizzy discovered me, I studied in France, in Paris. I was there 3 years, and also I knew French because I learned in school in Buenos Aires. So I spoke very fluently French. And the director of this movie, his name was René Clément. He was very known in Europe and all over. He was one of the biggest directors. And he didn't speak English. So when they went to the MGM was financing the movie. And he asked for a composer who could speak French. And they said, Lalo Schifrin. And I did. And I went to Paris and I scored there. And I did a score. I had some of the, because I had only the jazz mixed with the scoring. And I used some of the best jazz musicians in France, like Pierre Michelot, bass, good musicians.
I just would love you to talk a little bit about working with a director, and if you could talk about them telling you what a scene is going to be like and how you form music based off of that, or maybe it's the other way. I would love you to talk about the process of working with the other people that make the film so that the music that you create meshes with the mood of the scene.
Well, that's a good question again. You bring good questions. That is more difficult to answer, but
well, I mean, or even if you could cite I just want to get behind the scenes as somebody who, is it just a journalist? I'm curious. I mean, you've done, I wonder how much directive you take. Like, do you get a script and they say, okay, this is a car chase scene, so we need some kind of rugged blues, and this is a romantic scene, so we need something more how does, take me through something like that?
Well, there are many answers to your question. First of all, the director tells you in general, unless if the director knows a little bit of music, that's dangerous, because that makes it's misunderstandings can be very often. Misunderstanding can happen very often with a director who thinks that he knows a little bit music.
Mm-hmm.
When I find one of that, or sometimes the directors used to buy records, and they bring the records, they write something like this, and I used to tell them, please don't go anymore to a record store for the time being, because I would like to bring my own ideas, and I think that they're going to fit what you think fit the movie, the images and the style of the movie. I had very good relationship in general with directors. When I said that, and very kindly, I never was a bully or aggressive, but it was a movie is a collaboration between different artists who are, let's say, they are artists who are very, very, how do you say, well, very specific, they have knowledge about what they do. As a film editor knows what he's doing. As an actor, an actress, they know what they are doing.
Sure.
Yeah. The director of photography, the cameraman, also he knows about the cameras. Of course, he follows the ideas of the director because he's that's what the director. So the same thing applies to music. And in general, they all bring. They are hired. All these specialists, they are hired to bring something of their own. The director needs help. He cannot do everything.
I'm talking to a legendary musician, Lalo Schifrin, who, I mean, I'm looking here. Do you remember when you first got out? What year you got out to Los Angeles?
Well, when Dizzy brought me to New York, he was living in New York, and I was there 3 years. And then to Los Angeles, I came here in I went to New York in 1958. 1963.
1963. So I'm looking here. So okay, of course, there's this album Between Broadway and Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing something called Gone with the Wave, and then New Fantasy, which I think looks like that's just. I've seen that album. That's just a Lalo Schifrin. That's That's just a improvisational music album, right? Once a Thief and Other Film Themes, and then 1965, The Cincinnati Kid.
Yeah.
But the one that you talked about before about the Ivory Tusks, that happened before The Cincinnati Kid?
Oh, yes. That was the first.
That was the first one. Boy, that is unbelievable. And then were there any more before that? I mean, I've seen...
I don't know if there was a soundtrack on that. Maybe there was. Yeah, I think there was.
Okay, I'm going to go... I want you to tell me about this. There is this... I mean, this is one of the most amazing things. I know my record store here in town has a copy of it. It is Lalo Schifrin, The Dissection and Reconstruction of Music as Performed by the Inmates. Can you talk about that?
By what? By whom?
I'm looking here. The Dissection and Reconstruction.
Oh, that's it. Well, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
This gentleman, Clarence Avon, of whom I'm a big friend now.
I need to talk to this cat. This is the guy who gave you the basically
yes.
said,
he's the one who also introduced me to Clint Taylor.
Wow.
And he got me a record contract with a subsidiary of MGM. I don't remember now the name. Verve.
That's right.
Yeah, Verve. And that was... Clint Taylor was running the jazz department of Verve Records.
That's right.
So Clint Taylor was the one that I worked with for many, many years. And he had really good ideas about what kind of albums he wanted me to do. This was before the CDs. This is in the old configuration.
Yeah, no, I only collect vinyl, so I love that piece.
Okay.
So I know what you mean.
Yeah, okay. So there were vinyls, and he came with the idea of, said, why don't you do an album with combining jazz with early classical music like Baroque, early classical, even music from the Middle Ages in Europe, combined with jazz. So that's what I did. I call it. The title was mine.
the Dissection and Reconstruction?
Yeah.
I just saw this. And who is Marquis de Sade?
Who?
It says a tribute to the memory of the Marquis de Sade.
Marquis de Sade.
Marquis de Sade. Thank you. Who is Marquis de Sade?
Well, you have to read history books. He did exist.
I know he did.
He was known for being a very strange. He had sexual deviations and all kind of. He was known. That's why I did, because he ended up in an asylum. He was crazy, but he became more and more crazy, and they put him in France. They put him in an asylum, and that's why I put him the inmates of the asylum. It's a joke. The whole title is a joke.
Right. The dissection.
And the music I wrote, though, is not a joke, because I did combine music of either classical that existed, and I adapted to jazz, or my own music, my own original compositions.
I want to ask you a question, though, because, Lalo, I mean, you were in the studios, I would assume, sometimes before the sun came up, and you would leave after the sun went down many times, and you made a very good living. So, but I know that you are a jazz player, and you need to get stuff out of your system. And I'd like to know the places that you would go to play, just to jam, just to play, even maybe play for free, like Dante's or Shelley's Manhole. Where would you go to play and just get stuff out of your system after a long day of work?
I don't understand. Can you repeat the last part of the question?
No. Okay, so you work all day in the studio on a soundtrack, okay? And then you are really, you want to play tunes. You just want to play like you did with Dizzy. And so what clubs did you go to in Los Angeles after your day of work to play? Like, did you go to Dante's, or did you go to...
Yeah, I went to Dante's and then to Shelley Manhole, yes.
Who were the guys that you would... I bring it up because, like, I interview a drummer, Ron Tutt. Do you remember Ron Tutt? Ron Tutt, T-U-T-T. He was Elvis's drummer. He actually was the drummer on your album, Rock Requiem. And I asked him, he was always in the studios, and he used to go to the Baked Potato and just play sometimes for free. So I just try to figure out with Lalo Schifrin, where would you go to play and who would you play with after a full day of work?
Well, probably I play with him and many others. Sometimes I play with Shelley Man himself. The pianist would let me play and left the bandstand, and they would want me to play. That happened very often. I played with their groups.
Did you have a working group though? That where you would just...
No, I didn't.
Never.
No. I mean later, yes, but not at that time.
Well, yeah. Okay, no. Tell me when did you put your first working group together where you could just play your own, or maybe it was to promote one of your albums. Who was in that group?
Well, when I started to do the Jazz Meets the Symphony albums. Do you know those?
I do.
All right. I selected Ray Brown on bass.
Uh-huh.
I wanted the bass. And I told Ray Brown that I wanted Max Roach on drums. I said, no, really?
I know. I love it. You have good taste.
I could have done it because I didn't pay for that. It was a record company.
Absolutely.
So Ray Brown told me, you don't want Max Roach. Why not? Because he's going to a lot of trouble. What do you mean trouble? No, he's going to start arguing. I knew Max. I knew Max Roach because, and I never had a problem with him, but Ray didn't like him. That was a problem. So I said to Ray, well, who do you like to? He's Grady Tate. So I called Grady Tate, and he did most of the albums.
And Grady would come from, was he living in New York? He would fly out there to Los Angeles?
Oh, yeah. To Europe, to anywhere.
So Grady Tate would be your drummer, and was it just a trio, or would you put any horns in there?
Oh, if you heard jazz music, the symphony had symphony orchestras, and sometimes I would invite John Faris. It was like a small group, jazz group surrounded by a symphony orchestra. That's why it's called Jazz Meets the Symphony. And to me, it was a challenge because I wanted to have I always loved, to me, music is music. Jazz, classical, the good music is good music. The other one we don't talk about. So I had symphony orchestras all over, in Vienna, in Paris, in London Philharmonic, the London Symphony, all these, and they love it. The musicians love what I was doing. They wanted to play. I got calls from their management, so when are you coming back? Also, sometimes I was bringing, of course, I did, for instance, a homage to Charlie Parker, and I needed Charlie Parker was unfortunately dead, so I did a tribute to him in one of the albums, and I had Paquito de Rivera playing alto saxophone.
Mm-hmm. Donna Schifrin? Who is Donna?
My wife.
Still your wife?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. She's executive producer on this Jazz Meets the Symphony. I've actually never heard this. This is stunning. Can you paint the picture for, you toured with this group, so how many people were in this entire working group?
No, basically the rhythm section.
Yes, Ray Brown and Grady
Ray
Tate.
Brown
Mm-hmm.
and Grady Tate.
Sure.
And then depends of the repertoire. Like I will John Faris on trumpet, Paquito de Rivera on alto saxophone. I think one of them, I had a trombone, but it was not American. It was Swedish. It was one of the best. The reason, I tell you one thing very important, if you are doing this interview, very, very important, is that I was hired by a producer. His name was Wolfgang Hirschman. He was a producer of a jazz band, one of the greatest jazz bands in Europe, in the city of Cologne, Germany. And this band was amazing. The musicians, each one of them could play solos. And now, thanks to him, I met, and he was bringing to Cologne without me. Before I met him, he was bringing the best jazz musicians in Europe, like from Sweden, from France, from England, and he put together, he produced records that they were doing. So I had a European agent, and he got me. I became kind of music director. He was the producer. He was the artistic director of the band, but I became the music director. I started to go very often to Cologne, and through him, and I met many of those musicians. So sometimes I put some of them in Jazz Meets the Symphony. So they were playing with Ray Tate, Ray Brown, but they were, like I said, there was a trombone, Niels, I don't remember his name now.
Yeah.
But he was a fantastic trombonist.
Wow. So
this is one of the, you can find out, because in one of the albums, I remember now, I did a tune of mine called The Fox.
Yes.
It was the theme of a movie I did, also called The Fox. I got an Academy nomination for that score, and I made it into jazz. And this guy played the trombone in that. Amazing.
Lalo, can you talk about? Did you ever become involved? Did you ever get fascinated with musique concrète?
Yeah, I know what it is, but
I'm just curious if if you ever tried to incorporate some of that, because it was very progressive at the time when you were, out on the first kind of moving out to Hollywood. But I wonder if you ever use electronic music in your...
Oh, wait. Electronic is not concrete.
Musique concrète. I'm sorry, not electronic music. Musique concrète.
No, because I don't think it's noise, but not music.
What do you mean by that?
I said that is noise, and it's not music.
Oh.
I cannot be more clear.
Okay, I see. Fair enough. Tell me your, if you would, about the first time that you met Clint Eastwood.
Oh, that was... I met Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood likes jazz.
I know he's a huge patron of jazz.
Yes, and the moment he heard one of my... I don't know if he's the one. He was the producer of his movie. He's in a company called Malpaso.
That's right. Yes.
And he liked, what he heard, and he hired me, or he told the director to hire me, and I did. I think the first movie was called... I don't remember now. It was a Western. When he came back from Italy from doing spaghetti Westerns, he did one more here. And then he started to change into other, the Dirty Harry, which I did, Dirty Harry. But the Western was, I don't remember the title.
I'd love to. He was doing spaghetti Westerns in Italy, and then he came back.
I didn't do those. No.
No, I know you did. No,
they were good scores. They were Ennio Morricone, and they were fantastic scores. I mean, for what they were, like a kind of caricature of the Western.
Absolutely.
It was very good for it was.
No, I'd love you to tell me about what kind of why Clint loved jazz. I mean, I know he grew up when it was a popular music, but what was so why did he love it so much?
Well, why do you like it so much? I don't know.
You know what? I mean, I got to be honest. I'm not a musician. I get off more on the people than I mean, I love the music, but I get off on you guys. You guys are so smart.
Yeah, but you like jazz.
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know why you like jazz, but you do. So we're becoming spiritual brothers. and that's what happened with Clint Eastwood.
Right. Can you talk about your working relationship with him? I mean, did he give you a lot of autonomy? I mean, especially when you're making Dirty Harry and these epic, that's not jazz per se music, but how did you...
No, but it's close enough. Like they say, close enough for jazz.
Close, yeah.
For instance, I'll tell you, once, the Cannes Festival, where they select the best movies in Cannes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, an opportunity, he was the president of the jury. And there was, Catherine Deneuve, vice president, and many other European, a director, a producer, all kind of. In this case, Clint came not as a producer but as an actor, and he was the president of the jury. So they needed a composer, and they chose me to be in the jury as a composer. And we had to vote. They show movies for 1 week or whatever, and they show the movies of that year, and we had to vote. During that week, mayor of Cannes, the city of Cannes, invited us for a luncheon. And during the luncheon, Clint said, Lalo, there was a piano in the living room. Said, Lalo, why don't you play something? And he made him, and we became closer there.
You remember what you played?
Oh no, I don't know what I played. This is many years ago.
Did you think? Do you think that was he? Did he try to play music? Did he play a little music or no?
What?
Did Clint play an instrument at all?
He plays piano, but I never heard him in person.
Right, and I just wonder how much of his acting style is what he loves about jazz is the improvisational nature of it, and how much of his acting comes from improv as well. I'm just curious about that.
Well, one thing I know, he liked Dizzy. He knew that I've been with Dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
He talked to me about it, and many other things. He liked Miles Davis. He liked John Coltrane. So he liked everything. Did he like Oscar Peterson?
Did he like Stan Getz?
Huh?
Did he like Stan Getz?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he liked Phineas Newborn.
Of course.
And Bud Powell. He talked about all that with me after we started to be a little bit closer. As a matter of fact, in this moment, I'm in my studio. I have a picture of him. When I played, I don't remember where I played, maybe in San Francisco. I'm with him, and he's in regular clothes, informal, but I'm with tuxedo because at that moment I had to play with use a tuxedo to conduct a big band that I put together, or they put together for me with my arrangements. And in this moment I'm watching him with me, and smiling, with like friends.
Mm. Lalo, I would like to do one more part with you, maybe next week. I also want to talk to you about your recent performance at the Hollywood Bowl and some more things as well. You always put me in a very good state of mind. I really love talking to you, my friend.
Well, that will be, you have to arrange, because
I'll talk to Jerry.
Yeah, talk to Jerry.
I'll talk to Jerry, and bless you, brother. I'll talk to you next week.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right.
Oh, listen.
Yeah.
What I said about the music concrete, I want to qualify that. I'm going to say that maybe it's not noise, but it is not within the things I like. When they came, for instance, the free jazz, or Ned Coleman, and all that, it was okay, but it doesn't appeal to me. And the music, extremely avant-garde, in classical music, I don't like it either. Although you know a little bit of the avant-garde music in classical.
Sure.
Well, I had a teacher in Argentina, a professor of composition, who studied with Schoenberg in Vienna, way back in the 20s, before I was born. And I learned the technique of the 12-tone music. And I know it. However, I never use it in my compositions. That's the answer to your question about music concrete.
I'm glad you couched. I'm glad you.
What?
I'm glad you followed up on that, Lalo. I appreciate that.
All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.